Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Adventure Comics 164, Superboy versus Silver Fox, a story where it's being pretty racist about indigenous folk. Oh boy. Yes, Superboy is hanging out with the Indigenous. Here, an indigenous tribe that has somehow existed without the rest of the world touching it. So it's sort of like an untouched pure. I don't like the word pure there because it sounds kind of racist to say any sort of culture is pure, but they haven't been touched by like the white man's genocide or modernity, and the modernity part is sort of the important aspect of this. Superboy is sent out to go find some artifacts. Don't worry, this isn't a story about him stealing artifacts from a different culture. He's done that before. God, has he done that before. When he runs into an indigenous warrior who has been kicked out of his own tribe because he tried to take a stand against the corrupt medicine man over the tribal chief position of the tribe. Superboy agrees to help him. Luckily, the corrupt medicine man isn't actually magical in any way. I can go back and forth on this. I always think that a Superboy story should actually go for having the character be fantastical. I've stated this before. Superboy is a fantastical character. Sometimes you just want that conflict to be a fantastical conflict. Make the evil, corrupt man magical. It's fine. It's a much more interesting conflict for him to fight against. No, he's actually lying. A lot of the magic, his medicine that he is using, is just that he's managed to go into modern society and have that sort of technology, and that's how he's pulling it off. None of his modern technology is going to be impressive once he has to deal with Superboy pulling his medicine or magic, all of which makes Silver Fox look better. Now, the indigenous folk are once again portrayed as being inhumanly red. It's actually more pink, and sometimes they're drawn in a very specific way that I don't particularly like. There's something a bit subhuman about them. Not as bad as African American characters in the 1930s and 40s, which we haven't had any in Superboy or Superman. Oh my god, we haven't had any in Superboy or Superman. Think about that for a second. But there were some really subhuman characterizations of other races. This isn't that far. It isn't to that extreme. They're still legitimately people, but there is a very particular design to the indigenous folk that you wouldn't see to the white folk in these comics. But it's not removed from the racism. It's still fairly racist. I also take issue with the fact that the story becomes about introducing them to modernity and that they would be happy about their culture being gentrified, essentially. I do enjoy the panel where someone is roasting a stuffed pig over a stovetop, just because it is a funny image, but it's still like ridiculous to believe that they were better off with modernity. It's essentially about like a young progressive arguing for gentrification to his own culture, and that's insulting in a great way. It's almost like the white man's burden to tame the wild and give them technology they could never discover. There's some interesting stories. I think there's a Louis L'Amour sci-fi western that involved like an entire indigenous culture that existed in a different dimension so they could stay the same. Sort of like how Black Panther has Wakanda that was untouched but is a futuristic, Afro-futuristic society. There was sort of an indigenous futuristic society, so it still kind of kept its identity, but also had its own forms of advanced technology. I feel like we're missing something there to really get across the idea that they were their own thing. I feel like they would have advanced in their own specific way without anybody touching them for like 200 years. But the comic doesn't want to think about that. The comic kind of wants us to believe that they need an outsider to make things better. So in the end, Superboy fixes everything, taking down the corrupt Silver Fox, the medicine man. Though the medicine man never was able to really put up much of a fight against Superboy, this is actually kind of a cakewalk for him. So once again, I think we needed some sort of magic to get in there. It is nice in, say, 2025 to see a very corrupt individual who is cheating people, using his own sort of celebrity power and fame, and then being taken down more than a peg by this moral character. Okay, that is it from Adventure Comics 164. Superboy versus Silver Fox. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is that Friday. We cover Batman starring either Detective Comics or Batman. Until next time, let us ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And how were those devices working? They had a stove there. There was no gas line. Okay, have a great day.